Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Hello, Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf, NIDAH Chav Zayin. We are holding 3 lines off the top. We had a chiddush yesterday that when there's a shilya, placenta, embryonic sac, which comes following a birthing experience, if that birthing experience was a viable, healthy birth, then this placenta, this shilya, even 10 days later, is attributed to that birth, and we don't suspect that there was another offspring present. In fact, Amar Rabba, Bar Shila, Amar Masna, he quotes Amar Shmuel Masa. Here comes the story of V'tohu. They attributed Esa Shilya, this Shilya that came later, they related it back to the birth that happened, way back with Vlad. Ad Asara Yamim. Until, 10 days later. However, the Gemara continues. The only way we can do that is if it followed the Vlad. When do we relate it to the Vlad? If it follows the Vlad. Rashi says, as opposed to if it came first. Shilya came out on Sunday and the Vlad a week later. Then we're concerned that perhaps the Shilya represents another Vlad, and she has to account for it in her, Tum account. Here comes another story. Amar Rabba Bar Bachana, Amar B'Yechanan, Maaseh. I'll tell you about a story. V'tohu es ha-Shilya b'Vlad. They attributed the Shilya back to the Vlad, even though it was 23 days later. Ad Chavdilu Yamin. Amar li Rav Yosef turned to him, he says, when you told us, you said 24. Ad Chavdal Amrslan. Farshim say perhaps he meant 23, not full, like it was 23 plus a couple of hours. He called it 24, so it's really one and the same thing. Amar Rav Ach Breder Aviro, similar story. Amar Rav Yitzchak. Maaseh, this time it wasn't a Vlad with a Shilya Vlad following. These were 2 twins. Maaseh v'nishtahe havlad achachaver lamed g'mul. This was a story that one twin lingered after his companion. 33 days later he was born. Amalei Rav Yosef. So Yosef told him, well, once again, I just have to correct you. Lamed Daled Amrslan, you told us 34, not 33. Ask the Gemara, how could you have such a gap between the 2 members? Hanicha lemanda Amar Yoledus Latisha, Yoledus Mkut. How's it possible to have 33 days between births? We know that Anisha could give birth, healthy birth, either in her 7th or her 9th. Time of the Gemara. Those are the only 2 months where it would be viable. Now, there's a difference of opinion about a Yoledus Latisha. So all agree that if it's a 7th month birth, then it could be even partial. It doesn't have to be a full 7 months. 6 and a bit can work. But what about a 9-month full-term pregnancy? Does it have to be full 9 months, or even 8 and a bit? Kutoin means a partial month. So if you say that 9 can mean 8 plus, so this could have happened. You could have one baby at the end of month 7, the next one at the beginning of month 9. So it's 33, 34 days in between, and they're both healthy and fine. You could have it. Right? The first one was formed, was completed at the end of 7, born then, and the next one delayed until the beginning of the 9th. He completed his, formation, and he came out beginning of the 9th. If you say that 9 means full 9, then you can't have this configuration. If 9 means a full 9, not partial, how could you have 2 babies being born in this fashion? Because if the 9 month had to be full 9 months, go back 33 days, we're now in the middle of the 8th, and you can't have a healthy birth if it's just in the 8th. Says the Gemara, inevitably you have to fix up the numbers here. Eifach Shmaitza will switch around the sayings. We had a story about the Shilya delaying 23 days, and then we had the story of the Vlad delaying 33 days to switch it around. I'm giving the Shoya, but the Shoya was a 33-day wait. By the twins, Chav Gimel, Vlad, by the Vlad was only 23 days. Okay, now that works because they could both have been born during the 7th. One beginning, one the end, with just 23 days in between. Amar of Avin, Bar of Ada, Amar of Menachem, Ish, he came from Kfar Sha'ar, some say from Beis Sha'ar. Let me tell you a first-hand story about this type of phenomenon. Maasa, v'nishtahe, v'lad'ach echad acha chaver, u'machadasha. If you think 30 days or 23 days is extreme, here comes the story of a 3-month wait between the two twins. And guess what? It's not just some story. It's right here, alive and well in front of us. And the two twins are sitting before us in the Beis HaMedrash. Who are they? One is Yehuda. One is Chizkiah. They are B'nai, the sons of Rabbi Chia. Ask the Gemara, how could that happen? How could an Isha become pregnant and again pregnant again? The Gemara is assuming 2 separate conceptions. We learned, once an Isha becomes expectant, she can't conceive another one. A second. So how could this have happened? Amar Abaye, no, it was the same conception. Tipachas, one droplet, Hoysa was. Got split into 2, meaning the same process generated twins simultaneously. And in terms of their development, one took longer than the other. Echad nigmor tzurasa b'tchilas zayin. One member of the twin family was completed beginning of month 7. The other one 3 months later. Echad b'seif tes. Okay, sholi b'vayis habayis tameh. Back to the Mishnah. So the Isha sheds a shoya. Anything in that room, anything in that bayis under that same roof is tameh. That's like a mace. Like a human who passes, it's metame, anything in the oil. And the shulya has that same status. The question is, why does a placenta give off tumah? It's not a person. Tanur Rabbanan. Shulya b'bayis habayis tameh. No, don't think for a second. Loisha shulya itself is considered a vlad. No, of course not. L'sheina shulya b'leiv l'sheinim of vlad. It's just because the assumption is that in the shulya there was a vlad, which now disintegrated and came apart. You can't discern it, but it was there at birth. So you have a dead human being, and metame she'ein shulya she'ein vladima. Devei Rabbi Meir. That's his opinion. However, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon retired. They say it's okay. Why? Here goes. Amrullah, they turned to Rabbi Meir. Why are you giving tumah to this entity? It's already been disrupted, disintegrated, and became bottle here and the other liquids. Yeah, Tamid, wouldn't you agree? Let's say shemitziu b'seifel by zachitzah. Let's say this material, the shulya or whatever it has in there, which was in this container, this safe, in this bucket, was taken out to the other room, to the outer room. And along the way it was sort of swooshed around, and shehu tahor, wouldn't you agree that it's tahor? Because it lost its formation, it became bottle, and the other liquids. Wouldn't you agree? Of course, he says, Amarlan aval, yes, right on, of course. V'lamay, why? So they asked him, so why would you be okay with that? He says, because by the time it gets out there, it lost its formation, it disintegrates. Amrullah, they told him, same thing. Just like you agreed that once you take him outside, the movement, the swooshing would disintegrate him and dissolve him, and nullify him, the surrounding liquids. Likewise. It doesn't exist, even in the first room, because it became bottled in the other waters. Amrullah, he says, no, big difference. Yeah, when you're carrying him around and you swoosh him around, then he disintegrates and becomes nullified. But initially, at birth, he's still intact to the point that he could be metame. Amrullah, you can't compare nimak pam achas, a one-time, somewhat, disintegration at birth. I agree there's some sort of, but it's still enough intact. L'nimak beis pam versus being swooshed around, twice, once initially, and then when you carry him, transport him outside. So I agree that later on, of course, he's but initially there's sufficient form there to be considered a vlad a human entity which is metame. Yosef Rav Papa, on a similar note, we have a story. Rav Papa was sitting achori behind the Rav baby, and they were sitting kamed Rav Hamnuna. Yosef Ka'amar. Papa was saying over my time with Rabbi Shimon. What's Rabbi Shimon's reason to absolve the shulya of tumah? He says like this: Kol savar, he holds kol tumah shenis arab mimin acher batlo. He says any tumah, such as in this case where you need to have it intact, you need to have a pure fetus material. So if it's unpure, if any other type of material gets mixed in with it, like the blood of the leda there, bid tela, it becomes nullified, loses its status. And this, of course, is unique to mace-related type of tumors. So the Farshim explain that the concept really was that we find a similar tumor that relates to a mace. Even after disintegration, you have something called rekev, netzel, different materials, spoilages and the consumption, material, which is metame. So fine, I understand the navel hair is sort of dissolved, but it's still a full fetus in there. So he says, look, but if it lost its pristineness, its purity, it's mixed in with other materials, then it loses that status. It's only tummy while fully, alone, without any other mixture. Okay, that was his reason. You see, it's not really a basar of mace. That could be metame, a kazayis. You gotta have the full mace, and you gotta have it pure mace, without any other ingredients mixed in. In fact, we'll see later, Shimon holds that by the rekev as well, decomposed material, where the halacha is that a spoonful of it is metame, it has to be pure, it can't be mixed with others, some similar fashion. Once there's a mixture, it's tar. Amar lahu, Rav Papa. So Rav Papa added, Hainu nami atamayu de Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi. So now I get the other opinion as well. There was Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, all on the same position that this shulya is tahar. Once we figured out Rabbi Shimon's reasoning, I presume it's their reasoning as well. Achicholei. So he was chuckled at. His companions were like, of course, why even make him? It's obvious, right? Ma'ishno. Why would you differentiate between the different reasons of the Tanaim Pshita? Of course, they're in the same position. Of course, it's based on the same reason. Why even mention? Rav Papa. So Rav Papa says, I'm not gonna take it as an insult, the fact that they chuckled at me. You know what? I'd rather embarrass myself and achieve clarity in Torah, even at my own expense. Rav Papa afilu ki'amilsa. Even to say, a statement like this, which can trigger chuckling responses, leima inish. One should get up and be brave about it. Go out and say it. To achieve clarity in Torah, it's worth it. Rather than keeping stand in front of a Rebbe and not getting that clarity that you need. As the pasuk says, one sacrifices his prestige for Torah, Hashem will elevate you. Midah keneged midah. You gave up, Hashem will give you more. Shnamar nevalta. You degrade yourself for the understanding of Torah. B'yisnas say, Hashem will elevate you, and you'll truly understand and reach the depths of Torah. But if you muzzle yourself and you remain silent, right? The mission says, Lo yabai shalamed. The person's shameful and not wanting to be aggressive to understand. He can't. You're not going to get there, right? So if you muzzle yourself, yad lapeh. Eventually, you're going to have your hand on your mouth. People will ask you. You're not going to have clarity. So it's worth it. It's worth my while to embarrass myself, to degrade myself, in order to achieve clarity. So that's why I made this extra point, this mention of this extra point, which really you would think it's just obvious, but I wanted to make sure that it is to confirm it. Says the Mu'azzab Shimon Tamei. And Reb Shimon, who in this case says, if there's anything else mixed in, it's it loses its status of tumah, is very consistent with his own opinion regarding a similar matter, where the mixing nullifies its status. The sanya. Malay tarvad rekav. You have a tarvad, a big spoon, filled with rekav, decomposed, mace material, which is metame. Rashi says this shiur is metame l'chol mishmei Sinai, and let's say a little granule of dirt dropped in there, so it's no longer pure. You still have the same amount, but there's another element mixed in. Shanav l'toichei offer kolshu, a little offer fell in there. Rabbi Tanakama says it's still tummy. Look, it still has its shiur. Nothing changed, despite the addition of this foreign matter. For Rabbi Shimon, no, metayr. My time to Rabbi Shimon, why? Amar Rabba, Ashke Chasinu, the Rabbanon by Rabbi encountered the Talmidim of Rav's Yeshiva, and they were sitting and explaining it. The Asper Kamri is sitting and saying like this. Because when that dirt falls in, we can assume that it's going to now surround a droplet, a granule of the rekav, which will now be batel on the greater amount of dirt that's surrounding it. So you lost that granule, and you diminished the shear required for tumah. Yefshar, you can't say shalai yirbush de predes offer. Two granules of offer will now overwhelm al pred achashol rekav, the single granule of rekav, right? That they surround, that they. Now you're missing a granule of rekav. I responded to him, Adrabah, why are you going this way? Why are you saying the two granules of offer will overwhelm one? Maybe the other way around. Adrabah, it's the opposite. The efshel yibush they pray this as rekav. I'll pray that we turn to base. I'll pray the achas shall offer. If you never say sure, if anything, you have more than you started with. Because look at it the other way. And Farshim explained. Because in the totality of things, you have more rekav, you have a huge spoonful of rekav. So look at the totality of it and say, look, this little bit of offer that fell in was now overwhelmed by surrounding. Well, the Gemara says that the two, granules next to it overwhelm it because they're part of the greater, quantity present in the container, and that will overwhelm the offer. Now you have more than you started with. It becomes nullified to the greater quantity, to the rekav, which basically increases the volume of your rekav. And obviously, sure, you have more than you started with. Elam Rabba. Okay, Rabba says, I'm not going to go with this reason because this reason can be applied both ways. I'll explain to you why Rabbi Shimon absolves the rekav due to the foreign material. He holds, just like tchilasai, way back when this spoilage process began, there's a halacha that, the rekav has a precondition. If you want rekav to be metame, eventually when it turns into rekav, so initially, it has to be a pure burial. Just the mace himself, just his skin and bone, not any other cloths and materials and coffins, because once that's present, that gets mixed in and it's no longer a pure decomposure process, in which case the rekav will not be metame. That's the halacha. So just like initially, when the process begins, it has to be purely mace material. Likewise, at the end of the road, when you have the pure rekav, it only has tumah if it maintains its purity, as opposed to having others mixed into it. That is Reb Shimon's reason for absolving it from tumah. How time Reb Shimon? At the end of the process, like the beginning. Matchilas, just the initial start of the process. Nasalei dava achar. If there's any other matter, it becomes for it egan giloin, a challenger. Rashi says a mevatel. It's mevatel. Disrupts it. You can't have any other materials in there. Avseifia, likewise, at the end of the process, when you have pure rekav, but if something else gets imported into this mix, nasalei davaracha, this other material become gan giloin, disrupt it, and terminate its tumah. Mai. So what do you mean initially? It needs to be pure. The sani of a brisa. So all agree to this, even the Rabbanon, that the initial process has to begin pure mace. Ezeo mace sheshlei rekav. Which mace has the din of rekav, and which one does not? Ezeo mace sheshlei rekav. It depends. Nikbar arain, barim shal shayish, or yal gaviris shal avonim. So if he was buried without any shrouds in a stone coffin, or shal shayish, stone, marble, or gaviris shal avonim, or on a stone floor, where there's no risk of getting mixed in with other, disintegrating materials. This mace eventually, when he spoils, has din of rekev, which is metame. But if there are other particles present, which will get mixed in, which mace does not have din of rekev, the grubby susai in his clothing, or in a wooden coffin, which eventually will rot and disintegrate. It'll be on top of a floor of blocks, of bricks, which will eventually, disintegrate, and we'll have some powder, some particles mixed in. In this case, there's no rekev. Furthermore, the din of rekev only applies to one who dies naturally, as opposed to one who's killed, where there's some blood lost in the process. It's not a full mace. It's not entitled to a din of rekev. Okay, so we've sort of went from one to the other. We started with the halacha of the shilya, which according to Reb Shimon is not metame because of the fire material that's mixed in, and we sort of compared it to the case of the tarvud, where there's other material mixed in, which is also not metame. But the Gemara now tells us it's because there's a unique requirement for the rekev. Soifa kitchilasai. And based on this new understanding, it's a bit hard to understand the comparison. Why would he apply a similar rule to the shilya? Shilya is a whole different system. By rekev, we say it has to be pure, beginning to end. But the shilya, why would we need that type of precondition? So the more later we'll discuss this. But first, let's sort of conclude this discussion about the rekev. Gufa, let's go back to the halacha mentioned before. Maloi tarvad rekev, the spoonful of rekev, shenafal techa efakashu, which imported some sort of other material. Tameh. Still maintains its tumah because the shear is still there. Reb Shimon metayr. Okay, another halacha which is very similar, which is subject to the same machlokes. Maloi tarvad rekev, this amount of rekev is spazer bayis, which now fell throughout the bayis, so it's all over the floor, and there's some interaction with the soil on the floor, but it's throughout the bayis. Habayis tamei, still, look, the rekev is still there, somewhat through the house, somewhere in the house, and the ceiling, the roof is now hovering over a requisite shear of a rekev, despite the fact that it's dispersed throughout the house and lying on the floor. Reb Shimon Matar says, no, it's tar. Because again, there is offer mixed in. So you think it's pretty much a repetition. This halach and the previous. Why mention both? Utzricha, both are needed. Each one has an element unfound in the other. The yashmina kamaisa. If only for the first halacha of the offer that drops into the spoonful, by hikam rabbanan, I would say over there the rabbanan maintain its tumah b'shem michna because it's contained in one, aval nispaza. But if it's dispersed throughout the, the floor of the house, maybe that's worse. Ema moidu lo the Reb Shimon, perhaps they would agree to him. In this case, the ein ma'ahil v'chayzer ma'ahil. You can't have the roof hovering over one drop here, one drop there. It doesn't connect. It doesn't combine into one transmitter of tumah, especially since it's all sort of interacting with the soil and getting mixed. On the same token, if we only discuss the second case, I would perhaps theorize baha. Only in this case, Amar Shimon v'yashmina baha, and if we only discussed the case of the dispersed rekev, I would say, baha Amar Reb Shimon. Only in this case, Reb Shimon says that it's tar. Why? Because it's all throughout the house, doesn't combine into one entity. The oil all over the place cannot just combine with each other. Two separate, acts of hovering. So you can't have one. It's not one, unified, combined entity that could be transmitting to him. But in the case where it's sitting in a spoon, okay, who cares? A bit of offer mixed in. Ema, I can perhaps suggest, Moidil Rabbani, we read the Rabban in this case, that it's Talmud Tzricha. Hence, we need both halachas, both scenarios, that both opinions are maintained, irrespective of the configuration, whether it's in a spoon together or dispersed throughout the house. In both cases, Rabbanan say it's Talmud Tamei. Reb Shimon says, look, there's fire and matter mixed in, especially if it's dispersed throughout the matter, the fire and matter, the floor in the house. For sure, it's going to be no longer Matame. Tanidach. Another note on the same topic. Mloi tarvad void. Here you have more than the requisite shear. You have a mloi tarvad plus of the dirt in the of the caver of a beis hakvaros. Tell me. According to Rabbanon, it's still going to have tumah. Farshim explained that we're speaking that we know that there were shrouds there were other material, but if it's more than the required shear, so that allows for a little wiggle space, so we know that we can deduct for the foreign matter, and you'll still remain with the required shear for the rekev. The Reb Shimon once again is metayr due to the presence of foreign matter. My tamei de Rabbanon. Why do Rabbanon apply tumah? Because since you have more than the shear, you have a tavet void of a beis hakvaros. Can't be that there is no she'ein by milei tavet rekev. Even when you discount for the foreign matter, you're going to be left with a shiur of rekev, and therefore it's mitzvah, despite the fact that there's a mixture going on. So this is sort of a recurring theme, a repetition over and over that the machlokes. In the case of the tavet rekev, which has foreign matter, is that Reb Shimon is metayr, Chama metame. Okay, once we established that reason, the Seifik Techilasa reason, now you've explained to me, time to Reb Shimon, why does Reb Shimon discount this from Tumah? Mishum Seifik Techilasa, because the conclusion has to match the initiation of the process, and as we explained, just like initially, if the mace is contained in some sort of disintegrating entity, tachrichem or orin, that discounts the whole rekev, tumah possibility. Likewise, ultimately, at the end, when you have pure rekev, but if there's something mixed in, that disrupts it as well. Okay, that's good and well by the rekev, but back to our sugya. We have a shulya. Shulya is not rekev. Shulya is a mace. It's an actual fetus in there, which is now a mace. Why is it not matami according to Reb Shimon? Gabe shulya my time. Why would Reb Shimon absolve that of tumah? Rabbi Yechanan. So we have Rabbi Yechanan, we have Reb Shimon and Lakish. Rabbi Yechanan, very simply because it's batal, became nullified in the greater quantity of surrounding liquids. Rabbi Yechanan mishum bitul b'roi b'nogel. It's based on bitul b'roi because once the fetus disintegrates, we assume it happened sort of before it came out. That's it. It lost its status, became batal in the other liquids. V'azda Rabbi Yechanan tamei, and Rabbi Yechanan is consistent with his own opinion stated elsewhere. Rabbi Yechanan, in fact, he tells us that Rabbi Shimon and also Rabbi Lezer and Yaakov, they're both on the same track, based on the Bittul Roiv concept. Rabbi Shimon Hadamar, as we just explained, that the Vlad inside became batal. Rabbi Lezer, what do we find in the Sanya? The Snan. We had it back in the Bechiris, if you remember. Rabbi Lezer and Yaakov Aimer. Be'ema Gasa. We have a large, heavy animal, a cow, right? She spit out, she shed this blood clot. Is it considered a vlad? This is the first time, Rashi says. Is this considered a b'chor? How is it to cover? Yeah, you got to bury it. You have to bury it as though it has kedusha, and the next offspring is not a b'chor because she already had the first birth. But the charer is done. Reb Chia explained on this halacha. You should know that the charara, even though you're burying it, but it doesn't have tumah. You touch it, you carry it, there's no tumah. Ask the Gemara, how could you have it both ways? Either it is an offspring or it's not. If it is, it has tumah. If it's not, then it's discounted. Regarding bechira matters as well. Since it doesn't exhibit tumah, first of all, why do you have to bury it? It's not a blot. It's just sort of a discharge. The reason is because we want everybody to know, to publicize that this was in fact a real experience, and it absolves the next offspring from Bechor. This is the Peta Recha. Okay, so apparently it has true Vlad status. So back to the question, so why is it no Tumah? How could you have it both ways? Why does he teach us that there's no Tumah? Answers like this. Sure, it counts as a Vlad. Sure, it has status. It's Peta Rechem. And the next offspring is not a Bechor. Why is there no Tumah? Because it lost its Tumah by way of disintegration and bittul. Rabbi Yochanan misham bittul b'roiv. No gabo. Rashi explains, Michui hanefal, the disintegrated fetus became batal badam in the blood. So he holds that if it lost its configuration and sort of disintegrated and mixes it with the other stuff, it becomes batal b'roiv. Like Reb Shimon holds in our sugya, and that's why there's no tumah by the shilya, despite having contained the blood, but there's no more as batal. Rabbi Yochanan, despite the lack of tumah, because of the bittul factor, but the mother is considered to be a birther, and she has to do the tumas leda count. Amar Usaba, this elder scholar tells the Rabbi Ami, Azbilach. So you just quoted Rabbi Yochanan. Let me explain to Rabbi Yochanan's reason. Time of the Rabbi Yochanan, the pasuk says that even this type of experience will trigger tumas leda. We learn that even if the vlad looks like zera, it's just disintegrated, liquid. Afilo yolda el ken she'ezriya, she just charges something which appears like the zera which she had received initially. Tamei leda, she's tamei leda, meaning it's sufficient to trigger the whole tumas leda. Okay, so we had so far two reasons why Reb Shimon absolved the shilya from tumah. Initially, we spoke about lack of purity, and we compared it to the Malay Tava Rekev, which needs to be reminiscent of the initial stage, pure, without any other ingredients. Yeah, but that only worked for the Rekev, which has that requirement, but by the Shilya, why do you need that? So Rabbi Yochanan offered a reason, Bithal B'roiv. Here comes Rish Lakish, Amar. He says, Shefir Shatarfu B'meimav Nasa Kemeis Nizbalbala Tzurasa. He says, just like we find elsewhere, let's say when a mace gets burnt, so it's no longer basar, it's still matami. Allah is if it's fully intact, if it has its tzura intact, it's still matami. On a similar note, said Rish Lakish, a fetus will only be matami if it retained its formation. But this shvir, this fetus here, inside the shoya, shatarfu b'meimav, which was rinsed with water, with its water. Rashi says either it was washed, with plain water, or with its own, birthing liquid. So basically, fact is that it got swished around during the process, and because of its fragility, the fact that it's so delicate, nasa kemes sheniz balbal tzuras, like a mesa lost its tzura. So its form got disrupted, and it no longer has mace status. And again, we're speaking about a fetus which doesn't really have bus or a share of kazayis. The only way to attribute tumah to it is if it presents as a full mace entity with its proper tzura, proper formation. But once there's this bilbul, there's disruption in its tzura because of its fragility, it just loses its, disintegrate, lost its tzura, lost its appearance, lost its tumah. And that would be Reb Shimon's reason for being matar. Amalei Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. How do you know that when a mace lost its tzura, does it lose its tumah? Mace shenis balba tzurasa minon. How do we know the Torah? Ilema. Is it mihadam Reb Shimsai? Is it because of Reb Shimsai telling us, "Amar bitzam with the law, Amar lasam say with law Reb Shimsai"? Mace shenifra. This rab. Oh, a mace which was burnt. V'shul dekayemas, but his skeleton, the guf, Rashi says, the formation is still intact, meaning the ashes were not dispersed, so it's still sitting intact as it was. Tumah, it gives off tumah. In fact, there was a story, Masahaya, v'timulei psachim g'dolim, turn to the next time, v'tiraloi, z'yiharloi psachim k'tan. So this actually relates to a different halacha, Tumas Pesach. Some say halacha l'shem mesina, some say it's Rabbanon. When there's a mace inside a house, so if there are doorways, we assume that the mace will be taken out. It's going to stay there forever. It will be taken out. The halacha is that those openings, those psachim, which are large-size psachim, suitable for transportation of a mace through them, needs to be at least 4 by 4 tefach. So in that opening, there's tumah, because it's considered the exit route of the mace. So even though the mace is not there yet, the Pesach has tumah. And that's only because it's a full mace. Suppose it's not a full mace. Then the even smaller openings have tumah, because if it's not a full mace, then it can be carried out through any window, any even a small sized exit route. So I have a story about a mace who was still intact, even though it was in burnt state, but it was still intact. So they considered the large opening, the large window, the large door, as being tamei, as per the exit route of that mace. But the small, openings were discounted from the tumah, because it's a full mace, which is not meant to be carried out, it's not anticipated to be carried out through the small openings. Rebbe continues. Okay, so you're going to allude from this halacha. Why do we apply tumah to the psachim? Because the shella, the formation, is still intact. But otherwise tahar. The mace will become tahar. So if it's disrupted, it loses its tumah. So you're concluding from here that at times, when you need a full mace, it has to be fully intact. Adarabba, says Rabbi Yechon, if anything the other way around, doik minol hagisa, you can infer the other way around. Infer like me, that even if it's not in its original formation, it's less tumah. And it may be even worse off than before. Why? Shulda kayemes. If the structure is still intact, only over there, the tehar lipsachim kan, only over there. They said, well, the big openings consider the exit route of the large-sized intact mace, but the small openings are absolved. Because a large mace through small openings, no. But otherwise, if the mace was disrupted, and no longer a single unit, then if anything, it's more tumah. Psachim tanim namim tmein. Even the small openings will be tamei. Why? Because you can take them out a little at a time. Because every opening, chazi, is suitable to transport through it a small piece of the mace. Take out one aver at a time. In any case, you're not taking them out as a single entity, a single unit. So bottom line is, you have no proof from here that a disrupted skeleton has no tumah. And likewise, in the case of the fetus, which has been disrupted through the process, who says there's no tumah? Why is that a reason to absolve it of tumah? Amar Ravina Rashi, Rabbi Yochanan, Dama Kaman. So Rabbi Yochanan says that if the burnt mace is no longer intact, it's still going to be a tamei. Whose opinion is that? Whose shita is he lining up with? Rabbi Elazar, like Rabbi Elazar, the Snan, Eifas Rufin, Rabbi Elazar Meshir B'Reva. As a whole, you have ashes from burnt people early, even though it's not a full mace, just a roiva kav, right, which is a shear attributed to the bones of a mace. In any case, it's about quantity. It's not about skeleton. It's not about formation of a mace. So he holds that the afer is still mitam, even though it's not part of a intact entity. Okay, in any case, there was a differing opinion with the law, right? Shlakish, that the burnt mace is only mitami when it's fully intact. How could you have that? Hechidami, mace shenisraf v'shildakei. Let's give me an example of a mace that was burnt, was still intact. On my bike, you're going sure surf. Al gabi katavli was burned on a thick leather mat, so he's still intact, and nothing else is mixed in, right? Rav Amak going sure surf al gabi apudarim. He was burnt on some sort of stone structure. No, he was never really fully burnt. He was charred, in which case he's still fully intact. Okay, let's look at Chazorah. Today's daf, we spoke about the Shilya who came way after the Vlad and still attributed to the Vlad, even 20-30 days later. We spoke about twins born about a month apart, and we have that unique story of 3 months apart. Yehuda v'Chizkiah sitting in the Beis Medrash. By the way, it tastes his ass. Yesterday he says that we had a halacha that a twin doesn't linger. A twin is born immediately after the first one. He says that how we have a story here where it actually happens. He says it's not common. Right? So unless we know for a fact, we assume it didn't happen because the assumption is that the twins are born soon after. Okay, then we shifted over to the question of the shilya. Shilya b'bayis habayis tamid, that's the Tanna Kamma Shita. Rav Shimon disagrees. And ultimately we had two reasons, either bita b'roiv, or because the blood, his tzura was disrupted, it's babel tzurasa, in which case it loses its tumah, similar to the case of the meit, shenisraf, which is only metame if it maintains the integrity of its original structure. All the best to you, and that's lachara.